Hi everyone, I'm Jane, your everyday 27-year-old who got more than she bargained for. I was just another number cruncher until my life took a sharp turn a few years back. This is my story, no frills, just the raw deal. It all started when I switched jobs and joined this new firm as an accountant. That's where Mark came into the picture. He was the sales guy, confident, charming, and with a smile that could sell ice to Eskimos. We first bumped into each other in the break room, and our chat started over the world's most temperamental coffee machine. Hey, you're the new accountant, right? Mark leaned casually against the doorframe, a smirk playing on his lips. Guilty as charged. I'm Jane. And you are? I responded, trying to look unimpressed. But internally I was already intrigued. I'm Mark, head of sales, and unofficially the resident coffee machine whisperer, he said with a wink. We both laughed, and from that day things just clicked between us. Fast forward 2 years, and Mark planned the most romantic proposal you could imagine. A weekend trip to the beach, a sunset dinner, and him getting down on one knee. I mean, it was like something out of a movie. I said yes without a second thought. Our wedding was something else, beautiful, heartfelt, but it flew by in a blur. We started our married life in the house I inherited from my grandpa. It's a quaint old place with a lot of character, and I've always loved it. A few weeks after settling in, Mark brought up a life-changing idea. Babe, have you ever thought about taking a break from work? You know, being a housewife for a while? Mark suggested one evening, his eyes full of hope. I remember feeling a jolt of surprise. A housewife? But Mark, I've always been passionate about my career, I replied, trying to keep the confusion out of my voice. I get that, Jane. But I've been doing really well at work. We can afford it. And think about it. No more stress, just focusing on us. Maybe even starting a family soon, he said, reaching for my hand. His words, his tone, it was all so convincing. I couldn't help but get swayed by his enthusiasm. So against my better judgment, I agreed. Why not shake things up a bit, right? The first few weeks were a novelty. I had time to do things I'd never had time for. Gardening, reading, trying out new recipes. Mark would come home to a clean house and dinner on the table. We'd spend our evenings talking about our future, making plans, laughing. It was like a prolonged honeymoon phase. But as time passed, I started feeling a bit restless. I missed the challenges of my job, the satisfaction of solving complex problems. I even missed the annoying buzz of my office phone. Still, I pushed those feelings aside, telling myself that this was just an adjustment period. Then, things started changing subtly. Mark's compliments about how nice the house looked or how good dinner tasted became expectations. If dinner was late or the house a bit untidy, he'd make these offhand comments that stung more than I wanted to admit. I started feeling less like a partner and more like a live-in maid. I remember calling my best friend Laura to vent. I just feel like I'm losing a bit of myself, you know? I confided in her. Losing yourself? Jane, you're a firecracker. Don't let this house wig douse your spark, Laura said, her voice a mixture of concern and encouragement. She had a point. I had always prided myself on being independent, on making my own way. And here I was, feeling lost in a role I never thought I'd play. After settling into this housewife role, I thought I had things figured out. But boy, was I wrong. One evening, Mark dropped a surprise that turned everything upside down. Mark came home looking all serious, which was unusual for him. Jane, we need to talk, he started, not even taking off his coat. What's up? You look like you've seen a ghost, I joked, trying to lighten the mood. It's my folks. Their apartment is getting renovated, and they need a place to crash. Just for a couple of weeks, Mark said, avoiding my eyes. I was taken aback. A couple of weeks? Yeah? Yeah, I mean, it's just for a short while. It won't be that bad, he said, finally looking at me. I sighed, feeling a mix of reluctance and duty. Okay, for a couple of weeks. But they need to respect our space, Mark. He nodded, of course they will. Thanks, babe. You're the best. Fast forward a few days, and Mark's parents, Bob and Linda, arrived. And let me tell you, it was like a circus unloading. Bags, boxes, even furniture. They brought everything but the kitchen sink. Jane, dear, make room. We've got a lot of stuff, Linda said, pushing past me with a box that looked like it contained her entire life. Bob followed, lugging a monstrous armchair. Hope you don't mind us bringing some comforts from home, he grunted as he squeezed it through the door. Our cozy home turned into a storage unit overnight. Everywhere I looked, there were their things. It was overwhelming to say the least. But that was just the start. Bob and Linda didn't waste time making themselves at home. Bob took over the TV, flipping channels like he owned the place. Linda started rearranging my kitchen. But that was just the start. Bob and Linda didn't waste time making themselves at home. Bob took over the TV, flipping channels like he owned the place. Linda started rearranging my kitchen. My kitchen? Linda, what are you doing? I asked, trying to keep my cool. Oh, just organizing things a bit better, dear. You know how it is, she said without even looking at me. I bit my tongue, reminding myself it was only for a short time. But inside I was fuming. This was my home, and they were treating it like their vacation house. Then came the dinner fiasco. I made a healthy salad and grilled chicken, my usual fare. But Linda looked at her plate like I'd served her grass. What's this? Rabbit food? Linda scoffed, pushing the plate away. Mom, come on, Jane worked hard on this. Mark tried to intervene. It's fine, Mark. I can make something else, I said, even though it was far from fine. No, let's order pizza. I need some real food, Bob chimed in, already picking up his phone. That night, as I lay in bed, I couldn't shake off the feeling of being an outsider in my own home. Mark snored beside me, oblivious to the storm brewing inside me. I was hosting, cooking, cleaning, and for what? To be treated like an unpaid maid in my own house. My in-laws, Bob and Linda, had turned my house into their own personal playground. But things went from bad to worse real quick. Linda started taking over the kitchen like she was running a military operation. One morning, as I was making my usual avocado toast, she marched in and made a face. What are you eating? Bird food? She snorted. Before I could say another word, Mark walked in. What's all this shouting about? He asked, looking from me to his mother. Your mom took my bank card and used it without my permission, I explained, holding up the card. He turned to Linda. Mom, you should have asked first. Linda rolled her eyes. I just needed a few groceries. It's not like I bought a diamond necklace. I couldn't believe my ears. It's my money, Linda. You can't just take my things. That's when Mark dropped a bombshell. Jane, let's not blow this out of proportion. You live off my money anyway, so what's the big deal if my mom uses it? I was speechless. His words hit me like a slap in the face. Your money? I can't believe you're saying this. It's our money, Mark, and our marriage. He just shrugged. Whatever. It's not a big deal. She'll pay you back. I felt like I was in some bad dream. My husband was taking his mother's side over something so blatantly wrong. A couple of weeks passed, and the tension in the house was unbearable. I decided it was time to ask the big question. So, when are you two planning to move back to your apartment? I asked Bob and Linda one evening at dinner. They just laughed. Move back? Why would we do that? Linda said, exchanging a look with Mark. Yeah, we've decided to stay here. It's much nicer, and Mark doesn't want to waste money on rent for us, Bob added. I turned to Mark, looking for some sort of explanation. He avoided my eyes. Yeah, Jane, it doesn't make sense to rent a place for them when we have space here. I sat there stunned. My home, my sanctuary was being overtaken. My husband, whom I thought was my partner, was now telling me his parents were here to stay. Just when I thought things couldn't get worse, they did. One day, I decided to go for a jog just to clear my head. But luck wasn't on my side. I tripped and fell, and the pain was instant. I knew I'd broken my leg. Hobbling back home was a nightmare. When I got back, I found Mark and his parents in the living room. Mark, I think I broke my leg. I need to go to the hospital, I said, trying to keep the pain out of my voice. Mark looked up, annoyed. What now, Jane? Can't you see we're busy here? Linda chimed in. Oh, stop being dramatic. It's probably just a sprain. No, it really hurts. I need help, I insisted, feeling the room spin from the pain. Bob just scoffed. At your age, you shouldn't be running around like a teenager. Serve you right. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I'm in pain here. Can't any of you see that? Mark finally got up, his expression more of inconvenience than concern. Fine, I'll take you, but this better not be some ploy to get out of housework. At the hospital, it was confirmed a broken leg. The next few weeks were hell. I was stuck at home, on crutches, unable to do much. You'd think my husband and his parents would help, right? Run. They acted as if nothing had changed. I was still expected to cook and clean. One day I was trying to make lunch, balancing on my crutches. Linda walked in and saw me struggling. "Can't you do that any faster?" "We're hungry," she said, nodding. "Can't you do that any faster?" "We're hungry," she said, not offering to help. "I'm doing the best I can on one leg." I snapped, my frustration boiling over. "Well, it's not good enough." "You're being incredibly lazy," Linda retorted. That's when Mark walked in. "What's going on here?" he asked, looking from me to his mother. "Your wife is taking forever to make lunch. It's like she's using her injury as an excuse," Linda complained. Mark sighed. "Jane, can't you just try a bit harder?" "We're all hungry here." I was in disbelief. "Try harder? I'm on crutches, Mark. What do you expect me to do?" He just shrugged and left the kitchen with his mom, leaving me there seething and in pain. You won't believe what happened next in my in-law nightmare. Just when I thought it couldn't get any worse, it did. A few weeks after my injury, Linda and Bob announced they were hosting Thanksgiving at our house and inviting their relatives over. The news hit me like a ton of bricks. "Thanksgiving? Yeah?" I asked, incredulous. "How am I supposed to manage that with my leg like this?" Linda just waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, you won't have to do much. Just stay out of the way and let us handle it." I was fuming. "This is my house, Linda. You can't just invite people over without asking me." That's when Mark stepped in. "Jane, it's just a family gathering. Let's not make a big deal out of it." "Big deal? Mark, I can barely walk, and now your parents are taking over our house for a party?" I said, my voice rising. Bob chimed in. "We thought it would be nice to have a family gathering here. After all, we're all living under the same roof now." And then Linda dropped another bombshell. "Actually, Jane, we were thinking it might be best if you stayed somewhere else for a couple of weeks. With your leg and all, you'll just be in the way." I stared at her, completely dumbfounded. "Stay somewhere else? In my own house?" "Yes, dear, just for a couple of weeks." "It's for the best," Linda continued, as if she was doing me a favor. I felt my blood boiling. "You want me to leave my house so you can play host?" "That's insane." Mark chimed in, trying to sound reasonable. "Jane, it's just for a short while. It'll be easier for everyone." "Easier for everyone? This is my home, Mark. I'm not going anywhere." I shot back, my voice shaking with anger. That was it. I lost it. "Get out. Both of you, get out of my house now." I yelled, feeling a mix of rage and disbelief. Mark's face turned red. "Jane, you're being unreasonable. They're my parents. You can't just kick them out." "Unreasonable? They're taking over my home, and you're letting them." I was practically screaming now. Mark's expression hardened. "If you can't respect my parents, maybe we shouldn't be together. Is that what you want? A divorce?" I glared at him, feeling a rush of adrenaline. Without a word, I went to my desk drawer and pulled out a set of papers I had prepared just in case things went south. "What's this?" Mark asked, his voice faltering as he took the papers from my hand. "Divorce papers. I've had them ready for a while now," I said, my voice steady. Mark looked at me, then at the papers, and back at me. "You're serious? You'd really go through with this?" "Yes, I am. I won't be bullied in my own house." "Not by you, not by anyone," I said, feeling a strange sense of empowerment amidst the chaos. Linda and Bob just stood there, speechless. Mark looked like he had been punched in the gut. The room was thick with tension. "Make your choice, Mark. Your parents or our marriage," I said, holding my ground. Mark laughed, a cold, hard sound that sent shivers down my spine. "Fine," he said, and to my shock, he signed the papers right there and then. "You'll regret this, Jane. You can't even support yourself without me." I watched him, feeling a mix of relief and disbelief. "I'll manage," I said, though my voice was barely a whisper. He shrugged. "Your loss." Then he and his parents gathered their things and left. Just like that, my marriage was over. The moment the door closed behind them, I felt a strange sense of peace. I was alone, yes, but it was a better alternative to the constant tension and disrespect. The first thing I did was change the locks. It felt like I was securing my own personal fortress. Thanksgiving came around faster than I expected. I was still adjusting to my new reality, finding comfort in the quiet of my own company. Then unexpectedly, there was a knock at the door. I opened it to find Mark, his parents, and a bunch of their relatives standing there ready to celebrate. "What are you doing here?" I asked, stunned. "We're here for Thanksgiving, Jane." I couldn't believe the audacity. "You're not welcome here anymore, Mark. This is my house and you're not my family, not after what you did." Linda piped up, "Oh, come on, Jane. Don't be so petty. Let's just have a nice dinner." I stood my ground. "No, you need to leave now." Mark laughed. "You can't kick us out. This was our family home." "Not anymore. I've changed the locks, Mark." "You gave up any right to this house when you signed those papers," I said, feeling a surge of empowerment. There was a moment of silence, then Mark's face turned red with anger. "Fine, have it your way," he said, and they all turned and left. After the Thanksgiving showdown, I started to rebuild my life, and let me tell you, it wasn't easy, but it was mine. A few weeks after Mark and his family left for good, I was sitting in my quiet, peaceful living room when my best friend Laura dropped by. "Hey Jane, how are you holding up?" Laura asked as she walked in, her eyes scanning the room. "Better than I expected, actually," I replied, offering her a smile. Laura sat down, looking at me closely. "You seem different, stronger somehow." I chuckled. "Yeah, I guess getting rid of dead weight does that to you." We both laughed, and in that moment, I felt lighter than I had in months. "But seriously, what's next for you, Jane?" Laura asked, her tone shifting to something more serious. I took a deep breath. "I'm going back to work. I've already started looking for accounting jobs. I'm not gonna lie, it's a bit scary, but it's time to get back on my feet." Laura nodded. "That's the spirit. You were always the smartest one at the office. They'd be lucky to have you back." Her words meant a lot, and they gave me the boost I needed. I was ready to face the world again on my own terms. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of job interviews and getting my life back on track. I landed a great position at a local firm, and for the first time in a long while, I was excited about the future. My home was mine again, my life was mine again. I had faced the worst and come out stronger.